Hi guys, welcome to the Manhood Explained. My name is Camille. Today is 19 of October 2021. Welcome to video number 310. Today I want to talk about the interesting subject of knowing your role and what is or what might be the impact of you doing it well or not, because it seems obvious, but it's not so easy as you may expect, and you might be surprised if you understand this subject correctly. So listen, today I want to base this video on a story that all of us know, and that's why I chose it. And for those of you who are Christians like me, that will be something, giving you much deeper understanding, because you know the story and what it correlates to. But if you're not a Christian, just take it symbolically, because that's basically what I'm going to be trying to kind of move towards and based upon today, because this story is known by everyone, so that's why it's a good story to use, but the symbology behind it is amazing. So just hear and listen. Give me a chance to show you what I found, and maybe that will surprise you, and maybe that will help you to build you as a guy and you as a father or as a husband. So listen, the story that I want to talk about or base this video upon is the story of creation of Adam and Eve, basically in the Garden of Eden. We all know that story, and as I said, take it symbolically. The story goes more or less like this. God created, this whole universe. He created the Garden of Eden. He created all animals and everything, put everything together. It started working very well. And at the end, he put there man, as a guy and as a man and woman, and he told them, listen, take care of this garden, protect it, and multiply and just enjoy the whole thing. There are two things in the garden, which is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and second, the tree of eternal life. Don't eat from those trees, and just have fun. And that's basically what is written in the first chapter of the Bible, of the Genesis book. But interestingly enough, if you keep reading, chapter 2 kind of says the same story, or kind of part of the story, explaining you in much more detail the human part of it. And the story goes like this, at least in Polish Bible. The verse 15 says that everything was created, blah, 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 and then God created man. And in verse 15 it says that the man was Adam, and that God told him, take care of the garden and protect it. And it seems kind of the same what we said, what was written in the first chapter. But interestingly enough, Eve is not in this picture for at least next few verses. Because what is said is that Adam was created, was given the authority, was given the role to take care of the garden and protect it. And then when he started doing this, he felt alone and he needed help. Those two things. He felt alone, lonely, and second, he needed help. So then that's why the Eve was created as a helper. So in general sense, this is true that as a human species, we were given the authority over our garden to take care of it and protect it. But if you look closely in this whole story, chapter 2 says that it was given to Adam, not to the Eve. And then, so the first thing I want to ask yourself, and take this whole picture and put it in your own life, ask yourself, what is my role? Because if you look at this story, how it continues, it will tell you that it is so important that the role you play will have impact on everything. Because as you know, the story continues, and it gets to the point that basically Eve takes the fruit, eat it, give it to Adam. He eats this fruit as well, and then God comes and say, so what happened here, guys? And as a result, they are kicked out of the garden. But if you look close enough, this exactly, I think it exactly shows how God is exactly doing what he said. He gave this authority and this role to Adam, and Eve as his helper. And when you look at what this whole thing kind of ended up being, that Eve first, ate the fruit, something which is really uncomfortable to talk in church, especially in today's time. That, well, she made a mistake, and many people say, that was the first sin that Eve basically did, not Adam. But then when God comes into the garden, he doesn't ask for Eve. He asks for Adam. He comes to him and asks him, Adam, what's going on? And he says, I was scared. I hide myself because I'm naked. And interestingly enough, which is a story of its own, God is not asking Adam, what do you feel? He asks him, who told you that you're naked? He basically asking him what happened, not what you feel. Something to think about. But again and again, it comes down to this whole thing. If you were given the role to play, you will be someone who will be responsible to play it well. So that's why are we surprised that God is coming and ask Adam for report what happened, not to Eve? Because Eve wasn't given the authority. Adam did. So that's why the same thing, when it comes to our lives, you've got to know what is your role. Because many times, and you can see that over and over again, and I could tell you stories after stories when I see that, in my own life, but in others as well, that kind of taught me about this. We as men, we like to we kind of like to chill. And many times, it pushes us to being lazy. It pushes us to be people who we don't, if it's not, on fire, we're not going to move to do something about it, which is a mistake. Because if you look how women work, they see things in much bigger detail, and they are seeing things here and now. And that's why if you're not going to do it, she will. And why are you surprised that she's frustrated if you're not doing your role? You see, the garden is your responsibility. Your marriage is your responsibility. Your house, your kids is your responsibility. It doesn't matter if she's better with numbers, so I'm not gonna do anything with money. No, just get up and learn. Why? Because it's your garden. So you see, the first thing I want you to ask yourself, do you know what your role is? Do you know what doesn't really mean that you're a husband? What doesn't really mean that you're a father? What doesn't mean that you're, son, or you're part of the community, you're part of the church, part of whatever? Ask yourself, do you really know? Because that's the basics. Because at the end of the day, you will have to give the report from what you've been given. So if you don't care, if you don't know, don't be surprised that everything's going to go south, everything's going to burn, and it's going to be on you. Second thing that I want you to understand, that for some apparent reason, we were taught, especially by our mothers and by the school system, which is basically led by women, which is one of the reasons. I don't want to go deep in that because that's not the meaning of this story. But we were basically put into or forced into this kind of mindset that we are taken care of, so we basically listen and do whatever everybody else says. And this is a problem, because when it comes to the story and what the story basically says is that Eve made a mistake, and we say that this is the first sin. No, she basically ate the fruit first. But look what happened. Why there was this sneaky snake in the garden? Let's say it was snake. Why would Eve had this conversation? Because if we would look at this situation as it's supposed to be looked upon, Adam was given the authority to take care and protect the garden and everything which is in it. Why the snake was even there? Surprising? Because maybe the first mistake which was done, sin, I don't know, but mistake, looking at the definition of sin, which is basically missing the mark, I would say that was the first sin. That Adam did not build a secure environment, that Eve could basically live her life and not being afraid of being tried to be tricked, which happened and which they paid, price for. You see, and again, everything comes back to you and your responsibility. But interestingly enough, the second thing that I want you to take from this video, one being knowing your role and playing it well, is second that your role is supposed to be a priority for you. Even more bigger priority than your own wife. Because this whole situation shows us that Adam should build an environment that was not hostile towards him and Eve. But even more, what would happen? Have you just think about it with me? What would happen if Eve basically would come to Adam and say, I talked to the snake and he said something interesting. I ate the fruit, even though God told us that we shouldn't. She would give the fruit to Adam, and he would say, I can't. God told us that we cannot eat it. And she will say, no, but you're my husband and all of this stuff. He will say, no, my role is a priority for me. Because it's not only about us, it's about whole garden, about every animal, everything is here. It's my responsibility. And the only one thing that God told us not to do is to eat from this tree. So sorry, babe, but you crossed the line. So second thing, you've got to understand that your role is more important than your relationship with your girl. Why? Because if you're going to follow her in her mistakes and you'll say, she doesn't care, so I won't care as well. Both of you are going to end up outside of the garden. But what if, it's like a long shot, but bear with me. What would happen if God will enter the garden and he'll ask Adam, Adam, what's going on? Something's wrong. What's going on in here? And Adam would say, you know what? Eve ate the fruit that you told us not to eat. And now she's, hiding in the garden because she said that she's naked, which I don't really understand what does it really even mean. But because you told me to be a protector and to take care of this garden and her, I said I won't be able to cross the line. And so I don't know, we will have to talk to her because, I don't know. Look at it this way. Do you really think that God would, take Eve and throw her out of the garden? She was not prepared. She was not equipped to take care of her because everything which was done in the garden was done by Adam. And even more, look at what was the consequence of them being thrown out of the garden. The impact was that Eve was basically, the whole giving birth was much more painful and all of this stuff. That was her kind of punishment. What happened to Adam? He was doing the same thing that he was doing in the garden. He was doing outside of the garden. But the result of his work was miserable. Because in the garden, he took care of all of this, and he had beautiful garden. Every fruit that he could imagine was there. But outside, there were weeds, and there was, harsh environment that was completely going against him all the time. So you see, that's the problem. If you do your work well, you can see that it will flourish. If you do your work terribly, you're going to have to do the same thing over and over again, and it's going to go against you. You'll feel that you just wasted, and you'll feel miserable. Because that's what you can see in many men who are basically, left the family or something like this, and at the end of the day, they'll say, I failed as a father, I failed as a husband. Many of them are not capable of kind of dealing with this pain of them making a failure, a fatal mistake by destroying their family, destroying their marriages. So that's why you've got to understand, you have to know your role. You've got to know that your role should be a priority, even over your own girl. Because there is a chance that God will come into the garden and he will say, okay, you did what you're supposed to do. Eve is not prepared to be thrown out because she will die there. So she'll be saved because of you. Have you ever thought about it? that because it wasn't her responsibility, there is a chance, maybe it will happen, maybe not, we'll never know, but there's at least chance that because of his kind of holding the fort, she would be saved as well. So know your role and understand that your role is a priority, even over her. That's why many women said they need barriers. They need kind of knowing where's the line that they cannot cross. And if they do, they'll have to take responsibility for it. Because if you're gonna fail, everybody's gonna fail. And point number 3, many times, and I had the same feeling as well. We feel like everything is on us. It's like, man, is like nobody helps us. It's just you and the work. And you can look at it exactly that. Everything you do is a problem. Everything you need to know more than you're capable. It's like life is miserable. You see, life is miserable when you do it wrong. Life is a completely different story if your priority is your garden, that the role that you've been given. Because then everything flourishes, and everything which goes against you, like the situation of Eve or your girl, well, she'll have to pay the price for her own sins, but at least you're in the garden. But if you fail, nobody's in the garden. So that's why I want you to switch your thinking and try to look at it this way. If I'm going to play my role well, at least as much as I can, there's a chance that I'll be still in the garden. Which, taking this whole down to earth, look at it this way. Look at everything that happens in your house, everything that happens in your life as your own kingdom. You're not doing it for her, you're not doing it for them, like your kids. You're doing it for yourself. Not because you think about yourself, but because you understand if you're not going to build a kingdom that they can take advantage of, nobody will. And that's interesting because many women who are not 20 years old and screaming, this feministic, things, women who had husbands, women who had families, and now let's say they're alone with kids or alone and have the businesses or then doing it on their own, many of them will tell you, I want to be with guys at least for 2 reasons. 1, I want to be with someone. And second, I can handle everything. But even though I'm handling it, it doesn't feel like I was created to do it. I can, but it's a burden. So why would I do this if giving to the guy, he will be happy because he'll be fulfilled as a guy who will be able to do this for me or for the girl. Many of them, I kind of really love this wisdom that they say, listen, I can, but why would I? If there's someone who would love to do this. So you see, that's why I want you to look at this. This is my kingdom. I'm going to do everything and I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to enjoy it. There's nothing that I would not be able to do in my own house. Cooking, I can do it. Maybe I'm not going to be a chef, but at least I can take care of myself. Everything is clean. Everything is perfect just because it's mine. I don't have to take the trash out. This is my house. I want it to be clean. I'm taking it out because I want it, not because someone tells me to do it. When you switch this thinking to this kind of thinking, you will see that your house, your life is going to become your kingdom. You'll start to enjoy it. And then your wife and your kids are going to enjoy it as well. Because it works not because you have to make it work, but you love it because it's your kingdom. And then everything flourishes, even them and even your relationships. So listen, this is what I want you to take from this video. The story of Adam and Eve basically shows a very simple thing that many of us forget. You've got to know who you are. You've got to know your role. And this role is supposed to be your priority. Again, not to be macho, not to be someone who basically governs everything. We have to take care and protect what is yours. Be a loving protector, someone who's taking care out of love. Not because, you've been given power. This is supposed to be a priority because then you'll understand that taking care of your kingdom will make this thing work so they can flourish as well. If you won't do it, no one will, and everything's gonna go south. Everything's gonna burn. And 3, if you understand this, and you start to build this whole thing as your own kingdom, you'll start to see that it's not a problem, it is not a burden. It's like investment. It's like creating something from ground up just because you can, because you're a man. And then everything would fall into place. Even if the problems will show up, even if she or your kid's gonna go against you, the only way for them to stay in the garden is to come back and kind of be with you just because the garden is yours and you do it well. Think about it and do something about it, because this story might change your life, not just by putting more on you, but opening your eyes that your garden might be your kingdom and might be a creation and joy of your life that everyone else will be able to eat fruits from. If you like this video, like, share, comment. If you didn't, comment as well. Tell me what you think, what is your experience. If there's anything you want me to talk about, just give me a shout. I'll be glad to do it and talk about it for you. That being said, see you in the next video.